Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You can go now, Maz. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bassem Youssef.
I know. Yes. Yes. I lost my show. That's why I need a compensation. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Okay.
This is Bassem. Good evening. Welcome to the John F. Kennedy Forum. I'm Maggie Williams, Director of the Institute of Politics here at Harvard, and it's my great pleasure to introduce the moderator of tonight's discussion, Bassem Youssef.
Thank you. Thank you. Please don't stop. Please don't stop. Continue.
There's more.
Okay. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Bassem is a Spring 2015 IOP Resident Fellow. Spring, so-called Spring.
Yes.
He is also a globally known political satirist and a comedian who, unlike most comedians, began his career as a cardiac surgeon.
Yes, of course.
In 2013, Bassem was one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. Foreign Policy magazine listed him among their 100 leading global thinkers.
Really?
He is best known for his satirical television news program, which aired in his native Egypt for 3 seasons following the Arab Spring. It has been said that Jon Stewart's Daily Show helped inspire Bassem's satire and comedy, and he has been called the Jon Stewart of Egypt. But Bassem has countered that by saying, maybe Jon Stewart is the Bassem Youssef of the United States. What we do know is that Stewart greatly admires his colleague in Cairo and has appeared as a guest on his show. Said Stewart, Bassem is showing that satire can carve out space in a country for people to express themselves, because that's all democracy is, the ability to express yourself and to be heard. Bassem's work is humor, but its implications are very serious. He was faced with violence in his country and even threats to his life. But the right to criticize and satirize those in power is necessary for democracy to thrive and should be fundamental to all people. Bassem Youssef embodies this belief and advances it with comic genius and with courage. I am honored to introduce Bassem Youssef.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Now, enough about me already. Let's talk now about our real guest here. Maz, I became a fan of Maz in 2007. A guy gave me a DVD. I said, you have to check this out. It was called The Axis of Evil Comedy Tour. And in comedy, axis and evil in the same sentence, it's kind of it's very weird. And I watched it, and I fell in love with him. And I mean, in a brotherly way.
Yes,
I fell in love with him.
It's all right, man. It's Massachusetts.
Yes, I know. Yes.
And you arrived. You've arrived, my man.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, what was so unique about this tour that it's not just because it's funny. We see funny comedians all the time. It was not just because it was hilarious. No, because at a very, very difficult time, after 9/11, with all the misconception and the very negative perception that Middle Eastern faced, these people chose a different path. They chose comedy. Maz has been struggling with this since he was a little kid. I mean, he actually, a couple of days ago, he said in an interview, he said, I couldn't even get my friends at home, because that was during the Iranian hostage crisis. It's nobody will let their kids go to, they're afraid they're going to take their 6-year-old hostage in California. And he had to struggle with this. And people called him Iranian. And so at least pronounce it right. And so Maz is a fighter. He's been a fighter since he was a little kid here. He's been a fighter when he went overseas. And he had to present this kind of comedy in places that were not that familiar with stand-up comedy. So he's a great hero, and I'm very honored to be in the same stage with Maz. So please give it up to Maz Jobrani.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
So I feel like, thank you guys. I feel like now I should introduce someone else.
Yes.
This guy right here came to America At the age of 4, he struggled. He had a jacket early on, and he brought a backpack. He carried that backpack through the snow, and you're here tonight. Thank you. Give it up for this man right here in the front.
Now it's
Thank you. Go ahead. Introduce the person next.
So Maz is doing now, like, he's having a book out. It's called I'm Not a Terrorist, but I played one on TV. It's a hilarious book. I went through it in one night. It is one of the finest books I've ever read, and I'm saying that just to, and it's not an empty promotion, it's real, it's true, and I really, I recommend that you get this book and, and promote for it. But seriously, what's the thing with having like terrorist in red, like on the cover of the book? I mean, wasn't that a little bit dangerous for you?
It's funny actually. So this book, that's the title I came up with right off the bat, because the title refers to, I actually, early on in my career, I jokingly talk about this, but it's true. I say when they find out in Hollywood, when they find out you're of Middle Eastern descent, they go, oh, you're Middle Eastern, great, we have a part for you. Can you say, I will kill you in the name of Allah? And you go, I could, but what if I played the doctor in this movie? And they go, yeah, and then you can hijack the hospital. And you go, you're not getting it. So early on in my career, I was in a Chuck Norris movie of the week where I played an Afghan terrorist. This is before September 11th. An Afghan terrorist who goes to Chicago to blow up a building. And at the time, I had a day job, and I was like, listen, I should take any job I can get as an actor. So I said, let me take this job as an actor, and I will go, I will perform, I will show through my acting why this guy is doing what he's doing. I wanted to bring the art. I wanted to be a thespian in it's a Chuck Norris movie, remember? I wanted to, so I convinced myself, and I went down to do the wardrobe fitting. It was in Dallas where they were filming it, and they go, here's your shirt, here's your pants, here's your turban. And I said, oh, no. I go, actually, Afghans in America don't wear turbans. I said, Indian Sikhs wear turbans, but Afghans in America do not wear turbans. And I said, especially an Afghan who's going to blow up a building, not going to be walking around with a turban on. And the girl came back, she said, listen, dude, it's a Chuck Norris movie. Just wear the turban. And I was like, I go, no, I go, let's get this right. I think we should, I go, listen, talk to the producers. I think they'll see it my way. So the next day I came to my dressing room. There's my shirt. There's my pants, and there's a scarf. And I said, aha, see, I told you if you talk to them, they'll see it my way. I said, I will gladly be the scarf-wearing terrorist. And she goes, that's not the scarf, that's the turban. You just got to wrap it back up. And I felt like an idiot doing it. And then I came back to LA, and I told my agents, I said, no more terrorist parts. And then they said, okay. And then 24 called, and they said, we have a terrorist part. I said, no, thank you. And then they go, well, but he changes his mind halfway through the mission. I go, ooh, the ambivalent terrorist. I go, that's interesting. So that was the last time I did one of those parts. And then so when it came time to title the book, I said, hey, I told the publisher, I said, let's go with I'm not a terrorist, but I've played one on TV. And the publisher said they're a little wary of having the word terrorist in the title. And I said, but it clearly says not a terrorist. And they go, but they said, at the airports, people might not want to buy it. I go, don't worry. I said, there's all kinds of books on terrorism there. I go, you guys are overthinking it. It's going to be fine. So they go, all right. So they went with it. And then the first time they sent me the galleys to review it, I'm on an airplane with my picture on the cover. And I'm reading it to proofread, and I open it. I go, oh my God! I'm like, okay. So I'm there. I'm like reading like this. I'm like, So yeah, I was a little nervous, but I think I'm okay.
As a matter of fact, you describe in the book that everybody who works on a Chuck Norris movie is a Chuck Norris relative. I mean, his son is the director.
Yeah.
I mean, his father-in-law is like the wardrobe.
No, so I guess it was a family business. I think his brother was the exec producer. His son was the director. And as a matter of fact, I had a conversation with the son, because even after I had the turban on, I felt stupid. So I was talking to anybody that would listen to me. I was like, I shouldn't be wearing a turban, man. And the guy's like, hey, man, I just clean stuff up. I'm not, like, like, I don't want to wear a turban. It's like, I'm craft services. I got the food, man, But I actually had a conversation with the son. I was like, listen, man, because the son was younger. I go, listen, I really shouldn't be wearing it. And he's like, you know what, I agree with you. But he goes, unfortunately, my uncle is the exec producer, and he wants the turban. So he was older school. I guess the uncle thought, turban, Chuck Norris fans will be like, bad guy, and they'll get it,
It's easier.
You know what was interesting, though, because the movie, actually, we filmed it before September 11th. We filmed it in 2001 before September 11th. And then before it came out, it was a CBS movie of the week. Before it came out, September 11th happened. And when September 11th happened and I saw that they were shooting Indian Sikhs and going after people, I got worried that someone might see this film and forget where they'd seen me and then see me on the streets and be like, wait a minute, you know. I honestly was worried. So I wrote a letter to the president of CBS as well as Chuck Norris saying, please don't release this movie. And then they totally ignored me. They released the movie, and I'll be honest with you, I tried to watch the movie, and it was so bad. Like I couldn't get past the first 10 minutes. And afterwards, I was like, someone should have shot me, not for being a terrorist, but for having done that movie. So, you know.
But like, your mom at the beginning, like, she had second thoughts about your career. I mean, I mean, it's very difficult for you. By the way, he was like political science major and PhD, and he wanted to be a professor, like, and that making his family proud. And you just change halfway, and
it was
like did your mom had a problem with you being in entertainment business, or you being a terrorist shot halfway through the movie?
Both. I mean, listen, when you have immigrant parents, anyone who's got immigrant parents knows how it is. Like, they struggled to come here, and they want you to be a lawyer or a doctor. An actor and comedian is like, they're like, oh, this crazy American dream. What are you talking about? Like, you know, you need to be a doctor. You know, that's respectable. People like you. You know, and it's funny because my parents had convinced me to be a lawyer at first. Then I decided I don't want to be a lawyer. I said professor. I thought that was a happy medium. There's something that's respectable as well as, you know, being in front of people, teaching people. And then I dropped out of a PhD program. And I remember I was saying this earlier, when my mother heard that I was dropping out of the PhD program, she's like, okay, you know what? You're not going to be a lawyer, not going to be a professor. At least be a mechanic. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she goes, people need mechanics. No one needs an actor. And I was like, you know what? You're kind of right, you know? And the reason they say that was because they came from a revolution. And I think my mom wanted me to have a trade that once once you come from a revolution, you think every country is going to have one. So she's like, once the revolution in America happens, you can be a mechanic in Argentina, you know? She's looking out for my career internationally, man. But now she's come around. What's funny is now she's like one of my biggest fans, and she'll come over to my house now, and she'll be like, listen, I need 2 of the T-shirts that you sell at the show. Give me 5 DVDs. She hands out all my stuff to her friends. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing. She's finally come around.
So you always mention, there's actually a part in your book about the community will talk. I mean, we, in the Middle East, we don't just have our immediate family. We have like everybody. Like, you have like, you know, what will the guy, the security guard would think of you coming back that late? What will the guy who hand the laundry think about you, you know, dropping out of school? So we have like everybody. So you have this section about what the community will think. And you talk about that. I mean, and that was one of her concerns.
Yeah, you know, what's funny is the community, they use that to like hold us down a lot.
Yes.
Like as kids, if they, you know, like they'd be going out, like.
You see, all the Middle Easterns like, especially the girls, it's like, I can't go back late because of the community.
Listen, you could be walking out of the house with for a while, ripped jeans were really cool, you know, and some of you are still wearing them. But, so you know it's no longer cool. But for a while, the ripped jeans were cool, and like you'd be leaving the house, and your parent would be, why are you wearing ripped jeans? You go, this is how it is. The community will talk. We have a name in the community. You should not wear ripped jeans. And it became this thing. You'd be like, okay, I won't wear ripped jeans. Calm down. And this thing about the community got in your head to the point where you know what it's like. Like in the Iranian culture, definitely, everyone has a title, even if they haven't earned a title. So everyone I knew growing up were either doctors or there were engineers, Mohandes.
Mohandes, yes.
My dad had so many friends that were engineers that weren't engineers, but you had to refer to them as Mr. You'd be like, Mr. Mohandes, Mr. You know, Mr. Mohandes, you know, and you'd be like, what's he an engineer of? You know, I thought he works at a gas station. You'd be like, yeah, he's an engineer of gas pumping. He's a very good engineer. So because it's a community built on titles and respect and that's what it's an interesting clash of cultures because I grew up in America. So here I have the Middle Eastern Persian culture, which is about respect and what the community thinks, and then here's the American culture, which my friends like would be like dyeing their hair and getting mohawks and I was like, how did your parent not kill you last night? if you walked home with a mohawk. The craziest thing that happened to me, like in our culture, at least growing up when I was a kid, my mom would hit us. It was okay, and it wasn't like it was like the kind of hitting that you like is spanking basically. And we would we would behave like we no talking back. And I remember the first time this happened with my American friend Jesse. I was at his house, and Jesse and I think Jesse's mom yelled at him, and Jesse yelled back at his mom, and I was like, oh boy, I was like, oh, it's about to go down. And his mother was like, Jesse, that's ridiculous, and she just walked out. And I was like, did she go to get a weapon? He's like, no, man, that's it. I go, she's not gonna hit you? He's like, no. I go, man, that's crazy. So yeah, man, that's you know what I'm talking about, man.
Yeah. So all right, let's since we are in the Kennedy School and the IOP is here next door, so we need to speak about politics. Unfortunately, C-SPAN was going to cover it, but we're not boring enough, so they're not coming.
You know, I've been trying to get a TV show on network for a long time, and I just got turned down by C-SPAN. That is not cool, man. That is not cool.
Recently, I mean, there's this problem with, the Israeli Prime Minister coming to talk about Iran, and, somehow, I mean, everybody wants to bomb Iran right now, and you're there in the middle, and
yeah.
And today, kind of Iran, I think they have some comedian writing their lines, because actually the Iranian government kind of proposed that they will mediate between Obama and his Congress. I think that's
hilarious.
That's hilarious. I mean, I think you send them some sort of recommendations.
No, man. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes the politicians are funnier than you don't even have to write a joke. You just got to report.
Yeah.
Like seriously, I mean, as an Iranian American during Bush, Ahmadinejad, it was like every day I'd wake up and read the paper, and be like, "What did they give me today, man?" Every day, like Bush choking on a pretzel. Okay, that's you don't have to do a joke. He was watching TV, he choked on a pretzel. I mean, it's like, come on. Ahmadinejad just like being like his denying that there was gays. I mean, it was like
we do not have gays in Iran.
Yeah, well, the reason for that was because Iran has one of the highest populations of sex changes. So so in his mind, he's like, they're not gay. They're just they had sex change. It's okay. And
they disappeared. That's right.
Yeah. So it's that what's going on with Netanyahu and stuff. It's very interesting because it's. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of where they're at with the nuclear. I used to say with the nuclear program, I used to say Iran, we say we have a peaceful nuclear program. We blow you up, then we hug you, But with Netanyahu, I was saying, like, I was watching the speech, and I was curious, like, how do you make a nuclear bomb? So I Googled it. You should definitely clear your history after you do that. But it turns out you need photons and neutrons. And I told my mom, and she said, we don't have photon and neutron. We have saffron. So a lot of delicious rice in Iran. Yeah, man.
No, but like, you see, like, now you see, like, some prime minister from another country coming, like bypassing the president, coming talking to the Congress, and like I don't know how do you look at that as an American citizen? You are an American citizen.
Yeah, I
mean, and you have like part of you in this, like, involved in that other part of the
yeah,
world.
listen, I personally, I mean, I'm all for diplomacy, and I hope that will lead to a change in Iran for the better. Like, I don't support the current regime. I hope that the people in Iran could have more freedoms, and I feel that we get there by empowering the people as opposed to empowering the hardliners. And I feel that what Netanyahu has done and what a lot of the people that don't want to negotiate are doing is empowering the hardliners. That's my opinion. And with the Iranians, it's crazy, man. It's like we have like you get 5 of us in a room, and you're gonna get like 8 opinions. I mean, it's like it's crazy. Like, and so I think a lot of us want the same things, but we just have different ways of going about it. And yeah, I was not a big fan of him coming and giving the speech. In all honesty, like as I was watching the room, I felt a little threatened because it wasn't a very diverse room listening to him. And as somebody who's an American but of a diverse background, I'm like, whoa, I don't feel like these guys represent me. And it was a little scary.
Yeah. let's bomb Iran. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like, it's just funny how, there's a lot of things. Like there was during the McCain campaign when he was running, somebody brought up Iran, and he's like, oh yeah, he's like, bomb, 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 bomb Iran. And I was like, you can't say that. You're running. You can't be saying that. But he did. The other one was like, I remember like when we were going to war with Iraq, I used to do a joke about this, but it's true. I said I was worried at the time because I was like, if there's one president who's going to mess it up and bomb the wrong country, because they sound so similar, Iran, Iraq. Yeah, and I used to do that joke. And then I was watching an interview with Condoleezza Rice on CNN, and they were asking her about Iraq, and she's like, yes, we are going to attack Iran. I mean Iraq. I was watching, I'm like, you're the brains of the operation. You can't make that mistake. And that's what, and the joke I made then, I was like, if I had been Iran at that point, I would have just changed my name. Like, we'd like to call a press conference, Iran is now Canada. And Iraq is that way. Just,
How, so like, you in your book, you describe doing your you do your gigs here, and sometimes you're in a nightclub, sometimes you're in university, but you go to the Middle East, and you're like, you and your troupe are like, oh my God, it's like press conferences and kings and people appear. I mean, your mom should have been very proud.
She
right?
should have been proud, right? Still not. She's like, yeah, king, whatever. Where's your MD? Like, be a,
like, no. Yeah, he said, like, the king called me. It's like, yeah, did he give you money? It's like, no, so what? Okay.
Yeah. No, it was interesting because we did the Axis to Evil comedy tour. We were one of the first groups of Middle Eastern American comedians. And we started before September 11th. I started doing stand-up because I grew up in America. I was a big fan of Eddie Murphy's. I wanted to be a comedian. My background had nothing to do with it. I wasn't like, oh, I want to one day be the first Middle Eastern American comedian. I was just like, I want to be a comedian. And then when you start doing stand-up comedy, they say, talk about what you know. Well, I knew the experience of an Iranian growing up in America, so I'm talking about that. And at the time, I was at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. It's owned by Mitzi Shore, who's Pauly Shore's mother. The Comedy Store is a famous place. A lot of like big comedians have gone through there. Letterman, Leno, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. And Mitzi Shore is Jewish. Yeah. And around 2000, I think there was the latest intifada with the Palestinians and the Israelis. She used to love to watch the news. And she had this epiphany. She's like, I think there's going to be a need for a positive voice of Middle Easterners and Muslims in America. She goes, I want to do a show that has all my comedians that are at the club that are of Middle Eastern or Muslims in a show together. And so that's where she brought on Ahmed and Aaron Cater. And at the time, it was funny because there were so few of us. She put anyone that was brown, that was, I'm not kidding, that was not Latino or black were on our show. So we had Indians, we had Armenians, we had white girls who knew how to belly dance. I'm not making this up. This is true. This show was crazy. It was an eclectic show, and she called it the Arabian Nights. And we started as the Arabian Nights, and we would do these shows at the LA Comedy Store and the San Diego Comedy, La Jolla Comedy Store. And every time we do the show, Iranians would come, and after the show, Maz, really, I enjoyed the show, had a good time. But you know, Iranians, we are not Arabs. I was like, I know, but you know, the name is, you know, the owner named the name. She said, yeah, but we are not Arabs. I was like, calm down and just laugh and relax. And and so it wasn't until later when we named it the Axis to Evil Comedy Tour, started touring in the US as that name, and then we got the special here. And then if you would have asked me, hey, where do you think you'll be performing 6 months from now outside the US, I would have told you England, Canada, and Australia, all the English-speaking countries. Well, 6 months after we come out on Comedy Central, we end up on YouTube, and we get a call from some guys out of Jordan, and they go, yes, we would like for you to come do the shows here in Jordan. And I was like, bro, I'd love to, but you know, the show's in English. And he's like, yeah, I'm speaking English to you right now, you idiot. And I was like, oh yeah! And so the next thing you know, as Bassem's saying, we go to the Middle East, and it's amazing. It almost felt like there was an audience that had been waiting for us. Because we premiered on something called Showtime Arabia that was a cable channel. And we started selling out 5-country tour. We did, I think, 27 shows in 30 nights. We, like you said, we had a press conference. And I was like, what? Who's going to come to interview us? And there was reporters, and it was like, I felt like we'd become the Beatles over the Atlantic. And it was such an exciting experience, and it was really great. And one of the other things that happened then, this was the end of 2007, and it's actually right when we stopped touring as a group. But going from country to country, we would have young comedians from these different countries come on and perform with us. And now there's a whole comedy scene in a lot of these countries, and I think that really helped give birth to it. So it was a really exciting time.
Yeah. So some of the stuff that like a comedian have to deal with is being heckled.
Yes.
And so you being harassed as a child, heckled as an adult.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like as if there's like a continuous line of bullying like
Exactly.
behind you.
Yeah.
And you were basically bullied as a child because of you're different.
Yeah.
But you're heckled not because you're different, because you see things differently and
Sure.
you talk about things differently, and sometimes people get very sensitive.
Yeah.
So are people, when someone like you who have toured in the Middle East, who toured in the Western countries, are the sensitivities different?
Listen, man, everyone, first of all, I got, as a kid when I was in the 4th grade, that's when the hostage situation happened. So back then there was, they would call you an effing Iranian. They would say the actual word. And I would jokingly be like, it's not Iranian, it's Iranian. And secondly, you're bigger than me, so it's whatever you want it to be. But that was like as a kid, going through the hostage crisis and not really knowing what's going on, But then later, as a comedian, I think that, when this whole Charlie Hebdo thing just happened, a lot of people. One of the problems I have in America is when people, when people jump to the headline, and they go, they did it, they did the massacre because they were offended about the cartoons, or 9/11 happened because they hated our freedoms. It's like, that's not why it happened. There's deeper reasons, there's deeper issues. Actually, a great article that was written by Professor Juan Cole about the Charlie Hebdo, he was saying that these guys, obviously it was a professional hit, these guys were trained, and he was saying that Al-Qaeda was having trouble recruiting secular Muslims in France, because there's a lot of Muslims, a lot of French Muslims that are more secular. So by doing what they did, they knew there was going to be a backlash against Muslims in France, and now it would be easier to recruit these young kids who were a little more apathetic, that didn't want to cling on to the cause of Al-Qaeda. So you got to look at, there's strategies in this stuff, right? But beyond that, yes, Muslims do get offended at depictions of the Prophet Muhammad, but I also say Americans get offended at a lot of stuff as well. I mean, if you want to feel the vitriol of Americans, go online and do some jokes about gun control, NRA, and see how they come after you. For me personally, it happened during the Bush administration, where I would do jokes about Bush on the eve of the Iraq War, and people would get upset about it. I had a few people in the audience say, "You can't make fun of our commander-in-chief during a time of war." And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I was like, first of all, that's the whole point of this country, that we can make fun of the commander-in-chief. We have the freedom of speech. And I said, I can't make fun of the president of Iran, the president of Iran in Iran. Like, if I made fun of the president of Iran in Iran, you'd be like, hey, that was a good show. When's your next show? I'd be like, there are no more shows. The Ministry of No Show showed up. So people forget that we get offended as well. And I think that's the beauty of this country, that we should continue to have the freedom of expressing ourselves with whatever we want, however we want.
Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This side, not so much, but you guys, yeah. They don't like freedom of speech. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm going to open up the floor for some questions, and please feel free. You need to come to the mics on the floor. You need to do, it's very simple. You identify yourself. It has to be a question, not an essay. It has to end in a question mark, and please keep it short to give everybody a chance.
And your social security number as well.
Yes, and your credit card details. Yes.
Hi, I'm Julius. I don't have a social security number. I'm not American. But my question was, after the Hebdo attacks, there was a lot of talk about sometimes humor is just too much. And my question is there a too much? Should we be able to make the stuff with Muhammad?
Yeah.
Should we be able to do that or not?
Oh, you want me to go?
You take that. You
All
want
right.
to take that?
I can take that, and he can follow up. Well, here's the thing. I mean, the question is like, what should we do and not what we shouldn't do? It's very difficult to control a whole world with like an open internet. So let's say, for example, you close down Charlie Hebdo today. What are you going to do in the 1,000 websites that do even more offensive stuff? The thing is, the way you kind of make it stop or minimize it, because you will never make it stop, is to have a conversation about it. I mean, Maz here have a beautiful analogy. It's like, if you come to a comedy show, you don't like it, you just leave. You don't pay for it, and he's gonna dry out. Nobody will come to his shows. So maybe if people stopped buying Charlie Hebdo, you know, they might like stop doing it, or they will still cater to a smaller audience. The thing is, I said that the other day. I said, like, maybe the answer is not to burn flags or put embassies under siege, but to make this through a society conversation is that it's uncool. You know, it's gonna do, okay, you can do whatever you want, but you know what? It's uncool. You want to look like a douchebag? Fine. You want to play in this sandbox where other people like this, that kind of joking? That's fine. But this is the way to limit it, or, you know, or even like to make it there. But the most important that it doesn't touch you. It has no effect. The more violent you become, the more stupid you become. I mean, these people, Charlie Hebdo, offended me as a Middle Eastern more than these cartoons offended me. So the more of a conversation to make, this is the way that you limit this, and you just put it in its own right place. So the question is, should these people do it or not? I have no control on it, and actually nobody will have control of it, because the next day they will ask to, okay, should we make this joke? Should we make this third joke? Okay, how about most Christians and Buddhists and Jews and all other people? Like, all right, so you can't make fun of us anymore. So you just, if you're in a democracy, be prepared that you're gonna hear stuff that you don't like. That's my answer.
Yeah, and I think that, like, people that, you know, come from, you know, I was born in Iran. I grew up, you know, I grew up in America. He obviously has just left Egypt. I think people that come from places where there are a lot of limits on freedom of speech, I think that you'll see us pushing more for freedom of speech and freedom of saying what you want. I mean, you were just saying that, I guess, was it in Iran where some guys got arrested for...
Yeah, for WhatsApp. They were making fun of the regime on WhatsApp, so they have a very savvy regime. It's like, hey, that's just joke. You're going to retweet that? No, you're going to shut them down. Something like this, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot of countries that are being limited. So I think, I personally feel that you should be able to say what you want. And again, you succeed and fail by your effectiveness of, you know, in comedy, people are either going to laugh or they're not. And if it's really, really distasteful, you'll have an audience for that, but that may dwindle eventually, you know. So, and that's how you do it. You protest it. You write, you know, you say, I'm not going to go see this guy anymore. You know, to take up arms and, like you said, burn, you know, kill people and flag, you know, I mean, burning buildings and stuff. It just makes it worse. It just shows that you know, that you are what these people are saying. You know, you're savages. That's what it makes it seem like.
Yes,
know?
I'm gonna kill you to prove that I come from a peaceful religion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, let's also remember the people that are doing that tend to be a minority of the people. I guarantee you, there was a lot of people that were offended by the cartoons, but they didn't think, oh, I'm gonna go kill these guys. You know, so a lot of people take offense, but then they do what we were just saying. They just don't follow the cartoon, don't buy it. You know.
My name is Lainey, and I'm a freshman at the college, and I'm glad you just answered that question the way that you both did, because my question is, even if there wasn't a terrorist attack following one of your jokes, or even if you got laughs, has there ever been a joke or a movie you did, other than the one you've already mentioned, that you regret doing, and why?
Do you any regrets?
I don't even regret doing that other movie. I mean, it gave me a lot of material, obviously. Listen, I always say this as a comedian. It's like we're going through therapy all the time. It's like we're dealing with whatever our lives are, and you really got to try to not live with regrets and go, wow, how can I turn that into something that you know, I'm going to write about it, I'm going to go through it, you know. So, I mean, that said, as a stand-up comedian, there are nights when it's not that you regret it, but you're like, man, I need a double tequila to get through this, because it's like a lot of times, like when you do like a corporate event, and you go, why did I do this? Like, because what happens is, I was explaining this earlier, people will see you at a show and they will love you, and they'll be like, man, I got this company, we got this thing going on, you got to come do the show at the company, and you go, and it's not your demographic at all, and you go on stage, you die for 25 minutes. And the whole time you're doing the show, you're like, man, why am I doing? But one time this happened, actually in Dubai this happened, where the worst I said the worst thing is when you go to a high-priced event where people are coming up to you before going like, oh my God, I'm a big fan. I spent $250 for the ticket to see you tonight. And you're like, oh man, they have such high expectations. And the opposite is the best, when nobody knows who you are, and after the show, I didn't know who you are. You're very funny, I like you. So I was at an event in Dubai, and people that, by the way, the people that do a lot of private events have no idea how to put on an event, because I think that they think the more is better. So they'll do these events that are like 5 hours long, and they put you on at the end. And so there was this event, it was like this art thing going on. It was an art fair in Dubai, and they had this huge thing where like they were bidding hundreds of thousands of dollars on art. And at the very beginning of the night, this dance troupe came out, and these guys were amazing. They were like doing Michael Jackson stuff, and one guy, there was a pole in the middle, and the guy would hold the pole and just levitate to the side, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm just like, how am I gonna follow this? And so they do their thing. Then after that, they have people come up and give testimonials about what a great organization this is, and usually it's an organization that saved someone's life. So it becomes very sad and somber, and you're like, man, I hope I'm not on after this. You know, because people are like, you know, if it weren't for you, I'd be dead. You know, you don't want them to be like, and now the comedian. So I'm like, man, I better not be next. So the night went on and on. So we've had the dancers, we had the testimonials. Then they get this guy who comes up and does this auction where people spend like $500,000 that night on art. And the auctioneer is hilarious. And I'm watching, I'm like, they should have just ended with him. They don't need me. So he kills it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going on. They go, no, you're not on yet. They go, we're bringing on this chef, this German chef. I'm not kidding you. He came into the middle of this event. We're like 4.5 hours in. He came into the middle of the event with his workers, with his coworkers, this German chef. And he's got all these Filipino guys and Indian guys. And they all take a different station. And they start making our dessert in front of us. As the German chef yells orders, he's like, and now add the sugar. And they're like, sugar. You know. I swear, he's like, and now the caramel. I'm like, caramel. And it's 4.5 hours. We're reaching 5 hours. I'm stuffed. I'm loving this dessert. I'm like, that was amazing dancing. I'm like, I'm about to melt in my chair. And I'm not kidding you. The DJ, not even the host, no, the DJ in the corner goes into his mic. He goes, and now Maz Jobrani. I'm like, what? And I go on stage. I bomb I was supposed to do 20 minutes. I did 45. Because I was like, somebody just laugh so I can leave. They were exhausted. I tried to do crowd work. Apparently they told me that there was they said there was Kuwaiti royalty there that night. So I was like, you know what, I got some jokes about Kuwait. Let me go after the Kuwaiti royalty. That'll loosen things up. And no, earlier that night, someone had introduced me to this lady, and when they introduced me, they were like, Maz, you know, and I was like, of course I know. And I shook her hand and I said hello, and she was like, thank you, and whatever, and she went and sat. Now, the whole time I'm thinking Kuwaiti royalty, I'm thinking some like sheikh or something. So I get up on stage, I'm like, I heard there's Kuwaiti royalty, where are you, sir? And everyone just quiets down, and they all look at the lady that I'd met. She was like a sheikha or whatever. I'd met her earlier, and I had no idea who she was, but people had said, you know, and I was like, of course I know. And now I'm admitting I didn't know, and then I was like, oh, hey, I'm like, you know. Basically, that's one of those where I regretted, but hey, I got a story. So, and I, like I said, afterwards it was just double tequila. It was fantastic.
Thanks. Hi, Maz. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sure.
I'm Kusha. I'm a second-year MPP student here. I was wondering, did you ever think about pursuing late night, like being a talk show host? And how do you think the landscape is going to change with late night talk show hosts now that there's so many more diverse comedians on the scene?
Yeah, I was trying to get a gig when I was in Egypt, but this guy Bassem Youssef took it. Hey, no, you know, it's funny. I
hosted one of his shows, by the way.
Yeah, he did. We did a comedy show. Yeah, that was great. Listen, man. In all honesty, like when I first started, I thought, okay, I want to be an actor, and I want to do my stand-up. Like again, being a fan of Eddie Murphy's, I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. And then at a certain age, I realized, okay, you know what? The grind that is Saturday Night Live, and now I'm married, I have kids. I said I couldn't do that. More recently, in all honesty, like I had a podcast with a couple other friends. It was called Minivan Men. It was just us as dads talking about being dads. And the more I've done things like that, I've thought that, yeah, I could I'd be into hosting something. So it would just have to be, I'd have to be the right fit for whoever it is. And I mean, I take, the beauty of hosting, and you're privy to this, is that, first of all, there's a new topic every day, right? Whereas in stand-up, we tour around the country and or around the world, and we do our act. But in hosting a show, new topics. Hopefully, you have writers, and I would love to do it. So you never know. Let's see if there's maybe it was supposed to happen tonight. C-SPAN was gonna, but apparently
Yes.
they're not into it.
Yes.
Welcome, Mr. Mohandes. My name is Cameron.
Yes, thank you. Yes, and right back at you, Mr. Mohandes. Dr. Mohandes, hello, sir. Good to see you. An honor to have you here tonight, sir. Yes. How is the gas station? Is good? Fantastic, sir.
It's actually 7-Eleven, but it's fine.
Yes, of course. Yes.
My name is Cameron Conster, a first-year student here at the college from Southern California and a member of the Harvard College Iranian Association board. So first, to everyone here and to you, Mr. Mohandes, and our host, I wish you all a very, very happy Iranian New Year. Sal no kheli mubarak be hamatun. I hope you have a great New Year this year.
Thank you.
In a few weeks out of the year. My question is, how do you think that yourself as an Iranian comedian here in the country, how do you think you face some of the different problems within the Iranian community, so different fractionalities politically between those who support the Shah or the current regime, or how do you think you kind of guided through that in the United States?
Yeah, the Iranian community is a very, like I said, like you get 3 of us in a room, whatever, like there's eight opinions. It's a very interesting community, and it's funny to me because when I first started out doing stand-up, I started out at the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory. We would do stand-up. When you do stand-up comedy, you perform everywhere. I performed in coffee shops where you do a setup and you go to the punchline. Right when you go to the punchline, the barista would make a cappuccino. So you'd be like, why'd the chicken cross the road? And then you'd be like, to get to the other. You're like, damn it, I got to come back tomorrow and try that again. We performed in strip clubs. I've performed in church basements. I'm serious. You take a job wherever you can. So early on in my career, like a lot of Iranians didn't even know I was doing it. And I never did it because of the community. And so now when somebody comes to me and tries to push their agenda on me, I go, you know what? Thank you, but start your own blog or write your own thing. This is me. This is who I am. And I'm a big supporter of diplomacy. I'm a big supporter of evolution and not revolution. As much as I want change in Iran, I don't want bloodshed in Iran. And so, that's just who I am. And yeah, I mean, that's the honest truth. And there's a lot of Iranians, I get criticized a lot of times. Iranians go, you're a supporter of the regime. I go, I'm not a supporter of the regime. You clearly, if you look at my material, I've made fun of. Again, I don't go to Iran because I think if I showed up, they'd arrest me. In all honesty, you've had that.
No, they love me in Iran.
They love you in Iran.
They love me in Iran.
You should go to Iran. I'll go to Egypt. There we go. And also I just I've hosted, like during the Green when the elections happened, the Green Movement. I've hosted human rights events at that point. I've done videos in support of human rights in Iran. I've tweeted Rouhani recently. There was an article on CNN about how women aren't allowed to go to soccer. I knew this, but women aren't allowed to go to soccer stadiums. And I guess Sepp Blatter, the head of FIFA, has asked Iran to allow women to go into stadiums. And I took that clip, I took that link, and I tweeted Rouhani, and I said, this is ridiculous, change it. And now I don't know if that puts me on someone's radar, but I support a lot of things, but I'm not a jukebox. I can't take people's political requests, so that's how I respond to that.
About like Iranian New Year, he has you have an incredible story about like how like every year, and it's like, I don't know, 25 hours difference between LA and Iran, and they have to wake them in the middle of the night. It's like, talk to our relatives, and the one you never saw in your life, and you're like shouting.
Yeah.
Although it's on the phone, you're not like actually shouting to Iran, and
Well,
it's hilarious.
Well, it's funny. I talk about it in the book, but it's true. It's like, first of all, Persian New Year, Nowruz, opposed to the Western New Year, which is midnight in every time zone. Persian New Year is the same time. It's the first moment of spring around the world. So it could be whatever, 9 a.m. in Tehran, and it's going to be whatever it is, or like let's say it's 3 p.m. in Tehran, and 2:45 in Los Angeles. So my dad would be up. You'd have to call people. You're screaming. Which, by the way, I think to this day, the telephones, they still echo. I'm like, I know we want a nuclear program, but first we should fix the phones. No, you call someone in Iran, you go, "Allo," and then you hear your echo. It goes, "Allo," and then "Allo," and then they go, "Allo," and you're like, how many people are on this conversation? and I think it used to be, I thought the reason of the echo was because it was you, your relative, and the Iranian authorities. But now the NSA is there too. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of phone lines.
Yeah, and also about like being someone's political jukebox, because I had that. So when I made fun of people, they would come and say, "Hey, we like your show, but you know what? Don't make fun of Mohammed Morsi, or don't make fun of Sisi." And the people of Sisi were usually like older women, and they're more severe. And it's like, "You do not make fun of Sisi. We love you. Don't make fun of Sisi." I was like, all right. I mean, I don't think the guy would be threatened by someone. I mean, he's, Sisi. So he said, no. He's like, he's right after God. It's like, really? It's like, yes, God is above and he's down there. It's like, so is he above Prophet Muhammad, masalan? It's like, no, he's after him. All right, so what about Jesus, Moses? No, he's after them. So what about Abu Bakr, Omar, the rest of the disciples? Can you please give me like a checklist so I can make fun of the people? It's crazy, so yeah.
Hi, my name is Genwa, and I'm studying coexistence and conflict, not at Harvard. And I do have a social security number that I'm not willing to share.
Yes.
And my question, first of all, thank you very much for giving me something to look forward to every Friday, Dr. Bassem. Thank you.
Oh, that was in the past, thank you.
Yeah.
It will live in YouTube forever.
Oh, yeah. I still watch the
Thank
reruns.
you.
But don't you think, both of you, that the media has a very significant role in actually promoting violence instead of limiting its scope, let's say? So when something bad happens, you see it over and over and over again, but when something great happens, not as much attention gets it in the media. Like, you two are a great example of what Middle East has to offer, but you don't see it that often, or not as promoted as the rest of the news out there in the media, don't you?
You have to say the story of the cookies.
Oh yeah, that's a joke. I mean, it's a joke.
Please,
Well,
yes.
I used to do a joke about how like whenever like they show some crazy guy burning the American flag, going like "Death to America," and I was like, just once I wish they would just show us doing something good, like baking a cookie. Just once I want the news to be like, "Hello, I'm Mohammed, and I'm just baking a cookie." Yeah, and it's like, "Back to you, Bob." But it's true. I mean, listen, if you go to
But what happens later? So later, like, you have to finish it.
how does it? I haven't done it in a long time.
So later during the news bulletin, they will have like an explosion. It's like, "Oh, Muhammad, what were in that cookie?"
Oh yeah, that's true.
You see, I know his jokes.
Thank you.
The guy is incredible.
That was an old one.
Yes. Yes.
No, but
I'm a very old guy.
But it's what I say about like people. If people travel to these countries, they would see that people are living their lives. I mean, I went to Tehran 17 years ago. My father was still alive. I went to visit him. He'd moved back, and you go around and there's cookies and there's restaurants and there's people living their lives, and people aren't getting kidnapped. I've had American friends that went and visited Iran, and they said it was great. Anthony Bourdain just did a whole thing about Iran and how hospitable they were there. And I think anyone who has been in the media will tell you, fire and devastation sells, and unfortunately good news doesn't. I mean, I think the whole paradigm is set up to support violence. We were talking about this earlier with just the weapons. If there was a great documentary called Why We Fight, and it was all about Eisenhower warning against the military-industrial complex, and how a lot of times, we use these weapons because they're there. When you have after September 11th, arms sales went up, and America is one of the biggest arms dealers in the world. So war is good for business. Now imagine if they change that paradigm and they take all that money that they spend on bombs and they put it towards education. It would be a completely different world. But unfortunately, that's just not where the money is. So a lot of times, it's unfortunate, but that's the stuff that they show. And a lot of times, one of the problems I have, like, I don't mind playing falafel store owner. I don't mind playing 7-Eleven store owner. I don't mind playing a lot of different parts, but the terrorist part is the one that I say no to because I've been all over the Middle East, and I know people that are falafel store owners or cab drivers, whatever. But I've never met a terrorist, and that's a minority of the population, but they are a majority of what's represented in the media. And it was in my head a little bit. I was like, maybe I'm exaggerating this. Maybe people in America understand the nuances. Maybe it's not that bad. Well, over the holidays, I'm Iranian. My wife is Indian. Our next door neighbor, black and white. So our kids are mixed, 6-year-old boys. They play with each other. The neighbor's kid had his cousin, this white kid from Wisconsin, come to visit. Nice kid. We're all playing everything. And then I take them to the movies. And when we go to the movies, they go to wash their hands. And while they're washing their hands, an Indian Sikh walks in wearing a turban. He washes his hands. He walks out. The 6-year-old kid from Wisconsin, who I guess has not been exposed to the diversity that my kids see in Los Angeles, when the Indian guy walks out, his jaw drops. He turns to me. He goes, "That dude was ISIS." And I go, "What?" He goes, "He was ISIS." I go, "No, he's not ISIS." I go, "He's an Indian Sikh." I go, "He's Indian." I go, "My son, you've been playing with him all weekend. He's half Indian." And then my son got confused. My son's like, "Yeah, I was born in India." I go, "You weren't born in India." I go, and I'm like, I go, "You weren't born in India." I go, "Your mother's Indian." And the kid's like, "Your mom's ISIS?" And it became. But the point being that I realized that this poor kid, whoever, wherever he's living, he's watching the right network to make him think that anyone with a turban is a terrorist. And granted, it's a 6-year-old, but, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that
they don't. There are a lot of people out there who are not 6 years old who watch the news who actually have the same kind of opinion. And the thing is, to follow up for that, I mean, how can you fill 24 hours news cycle? I mean, you have to fill it with something, and it have to be something exciting. It's like you can't just say breaking, nothing happened. You can't say this. So you have to fill it with something exciting and spicy, and putting people always, and even the way they do the weather. It is scary.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
We are going to tell you where the storm gonna hit. It's like, guys, I mean, come on. It's like rain or what? It's something sensational about the media.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep you on your toes all the time. And I think this is how, like, we were fortunate for a while that we had Jon Stewart and Colbert, but now they are going to be gone.
Yeah.
So so this is why you have to fill it with like whatever crap out there.
I have a friend of mine. Her mother got breast cancer. She said when she got breast cancer, she said she stopped watching the news because it was so depressing, and she just watched like Seinfeld and stand-up comedy shows, and it made her feel a lot better. So yeah, I mean that's the thing.
Yeah, please. Oh, by the way, before the question, can anybody of you guys out there can take a picture of us as kind of a cinematic panoramic picture and kind of tweet us for both of us? Like I'm at @Dr. Bassem Youssef and he's at Maz Jobrani. Yes. So kind of take the picture because I will retweet you.
Here, hold on, I'll take it.
I have 4 million followers, and that's gonna be your lucky day.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey.
Okay, everybody get in.
Wait.
Get closer.
Yes.
Here you go like that. 1, 2, 3.
And now
we
from
go.
the people up there?
And now the people up there.
Yeah.
The cheap seats.
Yeah.
Hold on, you gotta do it. Hold on,
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Now, sorry, you've been standing there for a while. I'm sorry. Now your question.
So Bassem,
Do you still remember your question?
I do.
All right, go ahead. Thank you very much. So keep it there, keep it in your mind. Live with it forever. Next question.
I've already tweeted you guys twice. So
Okay, I'm sorry. Don't make us feel bad. All right.
No. So my name is Lippy Roy. I'm a doctor to Boston's homeless population, and I teach at Harvard Medical School. I have a question for both of you. So Maz, every Saturday morning, I wait up to Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR. I just love it.
Yeah,
Love
wait,
it.
baby.
And I'm obviously not the only one. So a couple questions. So what is it like to be on Wait? And what's Peter Sagal like? I have these visions of him being this weird little nerdy guy, but it's kind of my dream to be on that show, but I don't think I'm smart enough or funny enough. And to you, Dr. Youssef. So we know what Maz's mother felt like when he became a comedian. So you were that surgeon who then you were opening people's hearts, and now you're doing what you do very, very well. So I'm curious what that conversation was like with your parents.
Okay,
We're going to tweet our answer to you. You used to open their hearts, now you open their hearts with laughter. That's very nice. That should be your tagline. This should be on your business card.
I tried that, it didn't work.
For me, first of all, Wait, Don't Tell Me is coming to Boston April 16th. April 16th. April 16th. Get your tickets. It's a lot of fun. Watching it live is very different than what you hear, because we record like 2 hours. And we say things that we know are not going to make the air. Yeah, it's fun. As a matter of fact, like the first time I did it live, I was like, that was so much fun. This is great. And I went home to listen. I'm like, oh, they cut it all out. Because they got to narrow it down to like 52 minutes, and they got to give enough for everybody. So it's a lot of fun. I love doing it. The hardest part of it is that you got to fly in. Usually it's in Chicago. So I got to wake up at like 6 in the morning in LA and fly in that day. But for those of you who haven't listened to it, you should listen. It's a fake quiz show, another way to get your news of the week. Watch it live. And Peter Sagal is he's a bald, nerdy guy, but smart, really funny. I believe he went to Harvard, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I think he did. So try and come April 16th. It's going to be a fun time.
So for me, going through high school, my mom said you can be whatever you want, a doctor or a muhandis, one of these two. It's like I want to go to the AUC and do political science. Like, no, yeah, of course you can, but you can also be a doctor or a muhandis, an engineer. So I said, okay, so with limited options, I chose a doctor because my brother was already a muhandis. So now she's happy, she's proud. Both of her kids, a muhandis and a doctor. And the thing is, I was lucky because I didn't say hey, medicine is off, I'm going to be a comedian, because that did not happen. I was actually finishing my fellowship papers. I was accepted in Cleveland, which I'm sure that is warmer than here now. Anything is warmer than here now. But I was accepted there, and I was finishing my papers, and then the revolution happened, and then I had to change all my plans. So my mom was happy because now I get to stay in Egypt. I don't go to America, so America will not take her son away. So now I stay here, and I started to do the YouTube videos while still on my shifts. So I was doing my shifts, and in the weekend, I would record a couple of videos on YouTube. And I thought that this is not going to go anywhere. And then after 5 million views on YouTube, and TV station want to sign me up. So I still did the TV station. I took the TV deal, and I still did my doctor thing. And then after a year, I renewed in the second season with bigger money. It's like, Mom, I think I'm going to take a leave of absence. I'm still going to be a doctor, all right? So I'm just going to have a year. It's like, that's fine, okay, as long as you keep the doctor thing. And then I was harassed a lot by the authorities at that time, so I had to resign. But at that time, I was earning good money, so my mom didn't mind.
And his Twitter handle is Dr. Bassem Youssef. So that's what.
The reason it's Dr. Bassem Youssef, I swear to God, it was the only one not taken. I tried Bassem _ Youssef, Bassem Youssef _ FU Bassem, everything was taken. So I tried Dr. Bassem. You all have joined Twitter successfully. So okay, that's it. And that's the only reason, I swear to God. I didn't have any.
And your mother's happy.
Yeah, I will always be the doctor.
Yeah.
On Twitter at least.
On Twitter.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. So my name is Huda. I'm a coexistence student in Brandeis University. My question for both of you is, what would you say for skeptical people who think that making jokes of politics would turn it into just a joke, and then it will make people really just dealing with all the suffering and the dictatorship attitudes? Although I'm so into making fun of dictators because their image is the most important thing that they take care of. But many people think that making fun of such suffering in most of our countries would make the reaction and the attitudes of people trying to change that in a very soft way and just as joking and laughing about it. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think, there's many ways to help change something. A lot of times people do when I see somebody who goes to a devastated zone and volunteers and helps, I go, wow, you're a better human being than I am. I feel like they're doing great work. And politically, you can yell as much as you want, but sometimes people won't listen. So comedy, I was telling Bassem earlier that I was on a panel one time with comedian D.L. Hughley. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a funny African-American comedian. And he was saying how comedy is like giving people their medicine, but giving it an orange juice so they don't taste it. So I think that comedy plays an important role. And if people, for example, let's take the subject of Syria, which is a very serious issue right now. Let's say you're an activist in Syria, and let's say I do a joke that makes fun of the leadership. I think that we both have the same objective. And I think if you took offense that I'm making fun of it, I would say, wow, you're not listening to what I'm saying because I'm on your side. Now, I think also comedians, I think our job is not to make fun of the victims. You don't make fun of the underdog. You make fun of the people in power. Then I think you're on the right page with those people. And if those people get offended that are on the ground doing their thing, then they're being too serious, and they're also not seeing the power of comedy. I mean, Daily Show and what he was doing. I mean, you know, if he had been a politician criticizing the other politicians, people would have been like, oh, it's just they're just yelling at each other. But when he does it with comedy, it's a whole other thing, because people go, ah, he got him. And I don't even know if the guy understood that he got him, but he got him. You know, it's a good thing.
Well, the people that you're describing about like saying, oh, you shouldn't do this, these are like the most depressing people, and they always find them on Twitter. And you know that they are trolls, basically. You shouldn't make fun of this. Shut up. Yeah. Shut the hell up, seriously. I mean, go take your misery somewhere else. I mean, we had this, you know. So because when we're doing our show, I mean, there had to be some bombing happening somewhere or an accident, and then people came up, we shouldn't like make any jokes and where the country is suffering. It's like, well, if we stopped, I mean, it's not going to take away from your suffering. You're going to suffer more. And just these people who are like, I don't know, joke police, they are like depressing, trolling people, and they will only be happy if everybody's depressed like them. So it's, yeah. I mean, they're happy. Their Disneyland will be an asylum. So, you know, so really, I mean, don't care about them. Really don't care about these people, and just do whatever you want, because they no matter what you do, you're not good enough for them. And they're going to find a way to channel their depression to you. And it's like a very depressive place at the end, and you know, yes.
The best thing that's come with social media, because social media, everyone comes at you. But the best thing that's come with it is ban user.
Yes.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you know what, man? Like you said, this guy's got his own issues. I'm not going to respond.
Exactly.
Ban user. It's fine. It's fantastic.
And you know what? For anybody of you, like you're going to be, like I can see, like half of you will be presidents, and the other half will be their candidates that will lose against that president. So you're going to have like Twitter handles, and you're going to have like social media campaigns, and you're going to have a lot of people trolling. Every time when you have like negative like tweets thrown your way or comments, try to imagine the author of this tweet as a 12 years old with his underwear in a dark room on a computer, not having anything better to do. And it treats like, yeah, it's okay. So, and you will move on. I even stopped banning them or even blocking them, because like, hey, I got banned. No. Just go. Yes.
I'm Amira Abu Saoud. I'm Egyptian engineer for all the reasons you said.
Obviously, Amira, Egyptian Muhandisa, of course. Yes.
I'm now doing my MBA in Harvard Business School. So my question to you, like, how do you see your role being here in the U.S., like both of you, and the impact in your home countries? Like,
I have no choice, basically.
So I actually see, like, even like, when you were back in Egypt, I know like all the pressures you've been through, but like you always had your ways, having your stuff on TV or via YouTube. But I think you had a role of like having pressure in a way, and it worked. At least like the government were like on the right course, or they were feeling some kind of pressure, and it worked. So how do you see the impact on your home countries, like being there in the US, being affected, and what's like how you could maximize it to the max while being here?
Very quickly from my side, my role was bigger when I was inside the country. Sometimes when safety is a concern, it's not worth it. You have to think about your family, because, you know, I'm no Nelson Mandela. I mean, I don't want to spend And at the end of the day, when you actually become an Nelson Mandela, like, oh, the best that you can get is a couple of retweets and hashtag. So thank you very much. I don't want to go this path. So the second thing, actually for me, it's, and anybody who have an active role in Egypt or his country, when they go out, if you say stuff or try to play the same role from outside the country, it comes as a, like, it gets back negatively. It's actually, it's totally counterproductive, because now you're the guy who's speaking against the country, speaking from a foreign country, and of course you are, pushed by that and funded by whatever country you're in. As a matter of fact, while I was in Egypt doing my show in Egypt, there was a spread, like 2 pages on newspaper said, Bassem Youssef is a part of an international plot. He is trained by the CIA through their operative John Stewart in order to use satire to bring down the regime. So here you go. So imagine doing this from the States, like, oh, Bassem Youssef now, he is actually has been promoted from the CIA and he's working from America. So no, so that's you.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I grew up in America, so I never thought about any influence that I would have on Iran, and to this day, I mean, I don't know, I have no idea what I mean, I know that once in a while I get emails from people in Iran saying that they watch my stuff. Like I said, I tweet the president from time to time, and he hasn't tweeted me back. But I mean, I'm very American, and I think that my role is more about the image of Iranians and Middle Easterners and Muslims and Arabs and people from that part of the world in America. And my hope is that as I push and others start to come in, like when I first started, there was only a handful of us. There's a lot more of us now. I hope that slowly but surely the bigger population starts to open their eyes and their minds, and we become more, they look at us, it's almost like normalization of our people. And that's happened with, it's happened with black comedians in the past. They had to kind of push the envelope and get into the mainstream.
Latinos. Jewish stand-up comedians, like in the 50s and 60s, they pushed back against a lot of negative stereotypes.
Yeah.
And now I think it's, we just needed some sort of a tragedy and profiling so we can move on, man.
Move on.
More, yes.
Well, it's funny because for me, it's been like this since I came. I came late 70s, and then the hostage situation happened. So when people, like I talk about in the book, like there was times when we'd be doing the Axis of Evil, and we'd be doing a morning show, and the DJs at the morning show would have no problem saying, hey, so 9/11 really was good for your career, huh? And I was like, that's racist what you just said. Like, you wouldn't say that to a black guy and be like, slavery really helped you out, right? It's true. So, but they felt like it was okay. We were okay to make fun of. It was okay to come after us like that. And I was like, no, dude, I've been here since late 78. And first there was a hostage crisis. Then there was the movie Not Without My Daughter that didn't do anything for Iranian men's dating lives, Iran-Contra, it's constant.
Who would date an Iranian who do that to Sally Field?
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
So it's been constant. And so I think my bigger political agenda is probably in the U.S. than it is in Iran, just because I don't know what kind of influence I have in Iran. That said, I do support, I really am hoping for an evolution in Iran where there's more freedoms. And whenever I get a chance to do anything like calling out on human rights or something on Iran, I do it.
Yep.
I'm a freshman at the college. I'm British Iranian, so hi Maz. This question's really for you, and I was just wondering, so you came in the 70s and you've been here for so long. How do you feel that the Iranian American or the Iranian diaspora's identity will develop? Because I don't see Iranians emigrating back to Iran en masse. We're going to be in the UK, we're going to be in America, or wherever around the world. So.
Yeah, I think that what happens is a lot of times, like that first generation that comes, they think, oh, this is temporary. They go, we're going to go back soon, and then they realize, oh wow, it might take a little longer.
Yeah, they planned to stay in America for 3 weeks, and they came, and he just like stayed for 40 years.
Yeah, that's true. Like when we first came, we didn't know the revolution was going to happen. My dad sent for my mom to bring me and my sister for a 2-week winter break, and 2 weeks turned into whatever, 35, 40 years. So. I feel that a lot of the younger Iranians in America, and this might be true of other immigrants that come here, I think that we start to adapt. I'm very encouraged by the fact that I see a lot of Iranian Americans in fields that aren't lawyers and doctors, no offense, but But no, it's exciting to see us adapting and actually embracing America and realizing this is our home. Because a lot of times, again, that's why sometimes the gentleman that asked earlier, like when someone comes to me with their political agenda and goes like, yeah, we need to bring the Shah's son and put him back in power, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to be involved in overthrowing anybody. And I'm here. This is like I went back to Iran 17 years ago for 2 weeks, and I felt I didn't feel at home. I feel at home when I'm home, which is here. So I think that we're starting to adapt. Definitely the younger generations are starting to adapt. And I do feel that that's the future. You have Italian Americans, you have Jewish Americans, and you're going to have Iranian Americans just like that.
Last question.
Hello, my name is Ramona. I am a mid-career student from Romania. My question is, you both are very popular and you definitely have a very fine critical eye. We prepare here to embrace a political career. What would be your advice for us? What do the nowadays politicians miss? What don't they do properly? And what should we do more? Thank you.
Wow.
Oh.
Give.
Well, during my campaign. Please go.
Well, I mean, if you're asking my personal taste for politicians, I just feel like I had this happen recently. I did a panel in D.C. For Politico, and one of the people on the panel was a congressman out of Texas. His name is Joaquin Castro. He's like 41, young guy. And the first thing I did, I was like, man, I go, you're young. I love seeing you, man, because I feel like that's somebody who represents just my demographic a little bit more, and nothing against older people, but when you look at the Congress and you see that it's all one kind, I think that, first of all, those people in Congress that are in power, I personally feel like they need to start embracing the fact that America is a lot more diverse now. There's a lot of different people coming from, whether it's their sexuality is different, their race is different, their religions are different. I feel that you can't be of this old school frame of mind, and I think that will help in the future, politically speaking. I think you really got to be open to, you might have some constituents that don't look like you at all, don't talk like you. You wouldn't expect that's what they are, but they come up to you, and you got to embrace those people. So I just think that we're becoming more and more diverse, and I see that in my audiences with my stand-up as well. So that's one of the things I would hope that politicians of the future keep their eyes open to, the diversity and accepting that diversity.
I would say be serious about your promises, but don't take yourself seriously. Don't make people feel that you're like, just like make fun of yourself. Be closer to them. So yeah, but be serious about the promises. That's the only thing I have. So guys, I want you to buy this book because this is hilarious. I mean, it's really an incredible journey. And I would like to thank Maz because within his very busy schedule, he came up here. He have a tour here on the East Coast, coming back before going back to LA. And we'd really like to give it up to Maz for being an incredible guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Harvard.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Presidential.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hold on, brother.